I want to welcome you to the Buttonwood Park Zoo. My name is Paula Montgomery. I am the Director of Community Engagement here at the zoo and for the Zoological Society. And I just again want to thank you for coming out tonight as we unveil the new Science on the Sphere, new to the Buttonwood Park Zoo, I should say, not new to the community of New Bedford, which is wonderful, and you'll hear more about that this evening. Thank you for coming out. Thank you for being with us and sharing in this excitement as we unveil an incredible new tool for the zoo in our educational programming. So I am going to introduce Keith Lovett, our zoo director, to welcome you and offer some insight into where the zoo is heading in the future and why this is such an important tool for the direction of where we're going. So thank you.
Thank you, Paula. As Paula said, I am Keith Lovett. I'm the executive director, and I've been director for about 4 years now here at the zoo, and there's been a lot of changes in those 4 years. We're very excited to welcome you here tonight on behalf of the zoo and actually the Buttonwood Park Zoological Society for everyone to meet, as Paula said, our new tool that we'll be using in our environmental education programs, our Science on the Sphere. In the few years that I've been here, we've made a lot of changes to the zoo, and a lot of those changes truly have been on the programmatic front. And the three areas that we really like to focus on from a programmatic standpoint includes our animal care, our wildlife conservation, and related to the Science on the Sphere tonight, our environmental education programs. From an animal care standpoint, it's very interesting. We do a lot of surveys here at the zoo, and there's a lot of surveys that are done across the country and across the world with regard to zoos. And zoos can be somewhat of a polarizing institution. And what we're hearing time and time again is that what people are most interested in with regard to what zoos should be focusing is making sure we provide the best possible care to the animals. And we've really done that here at the zoo. And it's more than just providing the best possible care, it's creating scientific programs that support the care at the zoo. So that's some of the work that we've been doing from animal care. From wildlife conservation, I am happy to say that we are involved in helping save endangered and threatened species all over the globe. In one program in particular, guests to the zoo have been asked, would you make a contribution to the zoo's conservation programs around the world. In the last year alone, guests, this is no taxpayers, not fundraising, just guest donations to the zoo, have amounted to $30,000 donations that we have used to help support Asian elephants in Vietnam, the most endangered marine mammal in the world, the vaquita off the coast of Mexico, primates in South America, and lots of species right here in our backyard, including endangered butterflies. But with regard to environmental education, I would say that's where we've made the most significant changes. Kerry Hawthorne, who is our curator of education, who will be given a tutorial on the Science on the Sphere tonight and really letting you see what a wonderful tool it is. Her team has really put together some amazing environmental education programs here at the zoo. And what we love about our programs more than anything is not just the quantity and the quality, is that how diverse these programs are. We have programs that really cater to the entire community. From preschool level, we do programs with Meeting Street for children with developmental issues, working with children who don't have developmental issues, and this magnificent program. We work with all the local school districts, including New Bedford Public School District. A lot of people don't realize that any child that's part of New Bedford Public School System can come to the zoo for free. So that's a great opportunity to learn about wildlife. And it's not even just coming to the zoo for free. We have donors that have been working to actually provide transportation funding to help those schools that are struggling financially to be able to come to the zoo as well. We have great programs at middle school level, high school level, and even with Umass Dartmouth. This year alone, we started a new 4-credit course with Umass Dartmouth called Zoological Science Seminar that was actually taught right here at the zoo and led by an instructor who was our own veterinarian, Dr. Whitney Green. So we're very excited where we're going. And we're even more excited to have the Science on the Sphere. We like to connect the community, particularly children, to nature. And the ways we're going to use the Sphere is we're going to work with the schools to create curriculum based on science, various scientific topics. It could be climate change, it could be animal migration, animal biology. And we're going to help them teach these topics in their classes. And then we're going to bring them to the zoo, and we have this incredible visual tool let's use climate change, that they can actually see a visual representation to how the climate, how the earth is warming, whether it's through oceans, whether it's through land. And then they can actually go out in the zoo and actually see some of the animals that are most at risk from climate change. It could be our Asian elephants, it could be our marine mammals like our seals, or even some of the fish species we have at the zoo. So we're very excited about what we can do here. It's a great tool in and of itself, but to combine that with curriculum in the classroom, be able to have that visual representation of the sphere, and then actually combine it with live animals, we believe that this can be a magnificent program that we can develop here at the zoo. Right off the bat, I do want to say a huge thanks to Umass Dartmouth. Some people do not know that the sphere is actually owned by Umass Dartmouth. And they have loaned it to the zoo under a MOU. And we're very excited because being at the zoo, this year alone, hundreds of thousands of people will be able to see the sphere. And over the next decade or so, well over 1 million people will be able to experience the sphere at the zoo. So I want to say thank you to UMass Dartmouth, Jerry Cavanaugh, who's in the audience tonight, John Hoey, and others who have really made this an opportunity here at the zoo. We want to thank some of the companies in the area, contractors in the area who donated their services to help us put the sphere in. This includes Valoy & Son, who donated their service on construction, our own city's Department of Fleet and Facilities Management. Is that right? DFFM? Okay. Kenny Blanchard, Mark Champagne, who worked on this, Mount Vernon Group Architects. So there's been a lot of people who worked on it. We have some donors in the room I'd like to recognize. Maureen Armstrong, Sylvia Insurance Group, who's been one of the donors to this program. Joe Nauman, who is now a board member of the zoo. Steve Lorenz was another donor. Patrice Colahan, who's another donor. So I want to thank all these people. And then I also wanted to thank the board of directors here at the zoo. Many in the audience, Pete Selly, John Asuza, who am I missing here? Fred Smilik, who am I missing? Anyone else? What's that? Melissa Walsh, I'm sorry. I knew I was going to forget someone. I apologize. And Melissa Walsh, thank you all for everything you do with your volunteer and your expertise at the zoo. And I also want to recognize our elected officials, Linda Morad of New Bedford City Council and Steve Martins of New Bedford City Council. The City Council has been incredibly supportive of everything we do here at the zoo. And of course, the Mayor's office, Mayor Mitchell himself, but Christina Connolly and Christine Arsenault, who are in attendance tonight. So we're very excited about the sphere. We have a lot going on in the next year or next few months. In addition to the sphere, we have our elephant habitat, which will be open this summer, which will triple the space we have for our beloved elephants, Ruth and Emily. We have an unbelievable exhibit open called the Old Aquatic Center, which will now be called Rainforest, Rivers, and Reefs, that will be able to bring tropical species from South America along with marine species from oceans around the world, including species found off our coast, and that will be open in the summer. And we also have our nature space play area that will be opening later this spring. So there's a lot going on in the zoo, but I just want to say thank you for everyone for the support, not only for the sphere, but for the operations of the zoo and everything we're doing here at the zoo. So I'm going to turn it back to Paula, who's going to introduce our next speaker.
Thank you, Keith. Every time I hear it, I just get so excited because there are so many amazing things happening here at the zoo right now. And as Keith said, there's so many people to thank for that, and we're just so fortunate that the community of New Bedford and the South Coast as a whole really does embrace what we do here at the zoo, embrace us as an entity for education, for connection with nature, and all of the wonderful things that happen here every day. So thank you again to the people who have supported the sphere. Even before it came here to the zoo, we know that a lot of folks were very, very vested in its success at the OE, and the fact that it stayed and it was held on to make sure that it received a new home in the community is just wonderful. So thank you again to those folks and to all the folks who were involved in the OE, and I just would like to have a round of applause for those folks. So before I introduce our next speaker, Keith had mentioned a couple of things happening here at the zoo. We've got our newest newsletter on the back table, so if you did not receive it in your home, please grab one because it talks about nature play. It talks about some of the incredible species that we'll be bringing in the coming months and the process of what they go through when they arrive here at the zoo. So really some great information in there, and we'd love to have you talking about that in the community as well. So again, UMass Dartmouth, an incredible partner with us in so many ways. The Sphere is our newest partnership that we are thrilled about. And I'd like to invite Jerry Cavanaugh, the Senior Vice Chancellor of Strategic Management from UMass Dartmouth, to say a few words.
You know, I'm always amazed at how much foresight and how much vision people have had over so many years. And I think about that a lot when I think about the Buttonwood Park Zoo and the park itself. Just think about this for a second. Over 100 years ago, a bunch of guys got together, you know, without the internet, without telephones, without anything, and said, we're going to buy 97 acres of land in the center of a city. We're going to hire Francis Law Olmsted to come down and design a park and a zoo here. And then we're going to build it. Now just think about that, like how difficult that must have been back then. It would be difficult to do now. And I think about those kinds of things all the time, and Buttonwood Park is just one example of it. But we are the enormous beneficiaries of the foresight and the vision that those guys had and those women had. And we have an obligation to continue that and to be smart about it and to invest in it and to be committed to it. And at UMass Dartmouth, we are thrilled to be a part of it because we should be, and it helps us. And it helps us for a number of reasons. When you have 200,000 kids and adults being educated here and observing stuff here and participating in stuff here, those kids then go through the New Bedford Public Schools, which are also a big partner in this with us, and the superintendent is a big partner with us in everything we do. And some of them come to UMass Dartmouth. And we have an enormous vested interest in making sure that those kids who come to us are prepared and are qualified. And they're going to be as a result of what the zoo does every single day. And now it's not about buying land and building an arboretum as much or building basketball courts as much. It's about adapting to the times so that we're actually taking this is a massive piece of software. Basically what we're dealing with here is a massive piece of software that I don't pretend to understand completely, and putting it into a place where the most kids can see it. So when we, and I had just arrived at the university, I think, we were discussing what should be done with the Science on a Sphere. And there was enormous debate about where it should be, whether it should be at Steve Lorenz's new SMAS facility in the South End, or whether it should be in the center of I remember there was a long conversation about whether it should be in the center of the Carney Library, which had just been renovated with $50 million of stimulus money from Washington. But it was clear that if we could find a way to do it, this is where it should be. It should be here. And there was lots of debate about being proprietary about where this incredible piece of technology and learning should be, and the fact that there's only 200 of them in the whole world, and there's probably a dozen of them on the East Coast probably. But this is the place that everyone in the end of sound mind and who had a sort of a regional perspective knew that it should be. And this is the role of universities. And we should be doing these kinds of things. And we should be helping with financial support for these kinds of things, which we are doing. And renowned academics like Steve Lorenz, who you all probably know, who's the dean of the School of Marine Science, nationally, internationally known, commit enormous amounts of energy to New Bedford and to the South Coast. But that is our responsibility. And so I can only thank everyone for having the vision and the foresight that others had over 100 years ago, with some bumps in the road over that ensuing period, when the zoo, I think I think I remember the zoo was it closed at one point? Yeah. And I remember that period well. But that's what we should be doing, and that's what we hope to do more of at the university, not just with the zoo, but with the YMCA and with the Boys and Girls Clubs, and with other organizations and entities that we're trying to work with every single day. So we're playing a very small role in this, but I just want to thank everyone here and tell them that we are completely committed to the kids in this region, but also to the organizations that do such enormous work. And for me, I must say, and I apologize to Maureen and others who've probably heard this story 1,000 times. This is quite personal for me. So I spent 10 or 12 summers every single night in this park, from about 5:30 at night until 10 to 10:30 at night when they turned the lights off. I was there 7 days a week from the time I was 13 until I was probably 22 or 23 when I left. When I left for good before I came back 10 years ago. And my wife and I still walk around the park every Sunday afternoon when the weather's good. And we do the figure eight from our house. And we have a blast. And now our kids are grown, and now our grandkids actually take advantage of the animals in the park. But I have to tell you, when I do that, I remember one thing. One summer, the zoo installed a seal pond. Is it still here? Is the seal pond still here? Is it functional? Okay. So it was about 1972, 1973. And I had a bunch of friends, and one of them just passed away, a great New Bedford person, Tom Baroa, who dropped dead at the age of 67, a terrific guy who spent every summer here with me too. And Mike Jansen, who's become sort of a novelty around town. But the three of us every night would jump over the fence at about 10 o'clock and go into and get on the edge of this beautiful seal pond with this pristine water in it, there are no lights. And every night I would say to myself, tonight's the night that I'm going to jump in and there's going to be a damn seal in this pond. And it never, ever happened. But to this day, I walk by the zoo and think about the fact that I wonder what I would have done if there was ever a seal in that damn pond when I jumped into it. But anyway, we are just thrilled to be a party to this. We need to be a party to more of these things, and we hope we can play a bigger role as time goes on. So thank you very much.
And actually, since then, we have improved the security here at the zoo. And we have trained the seals to bite. So Jerry, anytime you like, you're welcome to try to go swimming with our seals at this point. So for what you have really come here to see tonight is the science in the sphere in action. I am going to turn it over to the previous mentioned curator of education, Kerry Hawthorne, who's been here for about 2.5 years now. And as I said, has done a fantastic job and is slowly becoming an expert on science in the sphere. And she's going to run you through a quick tutorial and show you some of the data sets and some of the programs that you can create here at the zoo with the sphere. And how many data sets are there at this point?
Over 543.
543. So this 543 data sets, you'll see a portion of the data sets, but the amount of information, the amount of learning opportunities that can be created with the sphere, we're very excited. So with that, I will turn it over to Kerry Hawthorne, and we'll be dimming the lights for a better visual of the sphere.
So I'm just going to take you through a few of the things I've learned about the sphere, and then obviously I'll keep it quick so that anyone that wants to come up and check out anything you specifically want to see, I see some kids that might be interested in looking at what you can check out on here, we can definitely do that too. But just to give you an idea of what we're thinking about for the sphere and the zoo. So just to give you a sense, it's all been mentioned before, but I'll say it again. This is amazing software set up by NOAA, so they developed this software, and most kids, when they first see it, think it's a hologram. How many of you thought it was a hologram when you first walked in? It's actually a big white ping pong ball that has projectors projecting data onto its surface. And the amazing thing that NOAA created was this software that actually seamlessly combines all of these projectors into one image that wraps around the sphere. So there are points in the sphere where they overlap and kind of create this image for you. And one thing that's important to know is when you're looking at this stuff, we're not looking at a cartoon of Earth, we're not looking at a painting of Earth, we're actually looking at a photograph of Earth. And it took me first thing I want to know is how do they get that kind of image of Earth? And as most of us know, this one takes a minute to get going, there are satellites that orbit around the Earth. And this satellite in particular is a polar satellite, so it goes around the poles at about once every 99 minutes. I think, or hours, I'm sorry, I'm still learning. Either way, it goes around, and then as we all know, the Earth is rotating underneath it at the same time. So every time it takes a turn around the Earth, it can take pictures of something different. And over time, it kind of gets this complete image of Earth. And so we can take these types of images, and then we get together with some amazing scientists, and we figure out how to plot their data onto these images so that we can bring their data to life. And the most important thing here at the zoo for me and the education team is to create scientifically literate people. We want to bring science to life for people. There are people who are afraid of science or aren't really sure, especially when we're talking about things like climate change, right? They hear it and they get nervous. So we can really take it and make it something that they can see. And so why do we want to be talking about Earth? Anyone want to guess what we're looking at here? You want to take a guess? I know you do.
Airline routes.
Airline routes. Anyone else? So this is actually Facebook friendships. So the Earth, as we know, has become very global. Social media has made us connect to people all over the world. And so our world has expanded, and we know that we can connect with people on all parts of our planet. I just think that's really kind of powerful. And of course, we know that people move around the Earth too, not just in time and space online, but actually move. This is a 24-hour cycle of all the air traffic around the world in 24 hours. Pretty incredible to think about all those people moving around and stuff, right? So it's important for us here at the zoo to talk to our guests about, the stuff you use in your home living here on the South Coast most likely comes from some other parts of the world. And very likely has an impact on some place you might never go, right? And we know that a lot of our guests are never going to be able to hop on a plane and head over to Asia and see an Asian elephant in the wild, or head on a plane down to South America and see a cotton-top tamarin in the rainforest, right? So people move around the world. Also, all right, this is where I try and get fancy. Hold on. Anyone want to guess what these little caterpillars are?
They're like,
Do you know where they're traveling back and forth from?
I think they're traveling back and forth from where it gets warmer.
Good job, yeah.
to where it gets warmer, and then once it gets cold over there, they go back to the warmer area.
Good job. So you're noticing that down here, there's a little temperature gauge that tells us one area is getting warmer and then colder, and those things are moving back and forth to where it's warm. Do you guys know anything that moves back and forth to places that get warm?
Birds.
Birds, very good. So this is some data sets of about 118 species of terrestrial birds that travel back and forth across the Western Hemisphere. And I bring this image up because, as Keith mentioned, we're opening a new exhibit, Rainforest, Rivers, and Reefs. And there will be many magnificent species of bird living over there that do this exact pattern. And to be able to talk to guests again about the fact that we share wildlife with people down in South America. So the animals that we sometimes enjoy in the summer and spring, people enjoy down in South America while we're being miserable up here having snow. And then we wonder why we don't just hop on a bird and go with them, right? So of course, when we're talking about something like birds traveling across South America, again, it's really important to be able to show people some human impact, right? So we all have heard about deforestation. I can go over to the elephant exhibit and talk to people about palm oil and how there's palm oil in your soap and your crackers and your everything you use. But to be able to show them, hey, this is where it comes from, and these are the forests that are being affected by it, and to actually kind of talk kids through, this is real data, and how that can become a story, right, is going to be incredibly powerful. Of course, one of my new favorite things to think about, we're not only talking about animals moving through seasons, but this is animals moving through time. This is 2 million years worth of plate tectonic movement. We do a lot of programming here around evolution, fossils, where you find fossils, why are there elephants here and buffalo there, why are all the marsupials in Australia, why do we have opossums here, one random marsupial that doesn't live there. Now we can, again, bring that to life. It's really hard for kids to understand that the plates move, and they have been moving and they continue to move. Oh no, it went upside down. There we go. Of course, some other interesting, this is where I get fancy again. Here we go. You know, animals move, ocean animals move a lot more than I think people realize. These are some seals and a bird that kind of are traveling literally across the globe, to be able to show people that. I will say, as Jerry mentioned, there are 138 science on a spheres around the world. We are the only one in Massachusetts. The next closest one is in Connecticut at a nature center. And we're only the third zoo to have a science on a sphere. It's kind of unique. It's not the kind of the niche of the sphere to be in a zoo. So I'll be traveling to Detroit Zoo in 2 weeks. I've been working with them quite a bit over the phone. To try and figure out, you know, how can zoos work together? We're part of this amazing community of the AZA community that supports scientists who are studying animals. Could we work with them to get their data up on the sphere and bring some animal stories to life? Because there's about 4 right now. So, you know, can we look at some other really great stories to tell, right? And of course, when we're talking about ocean animals, here at the zoo, we already do a ton of programming about weather and water. Oh, come on. There we go. And so how better to have a class come in to do a weather program and to show them the sea currents and how, even if you live in Iowa, you're affected by this system. This is the heart of our planet. It moves everything around. We are part of the National Network of Climate Change Interpretation. I facilitate their workshops, so I travel around the country training informal educators on how to talk to people about climate change. And how exciting to be able to now have a tool like this. So we talk about climate change and we teach other people how to talk about climate change, but now we have this great tool to talk about the changes that we're seeing across the globe. And doing it in a hopeful and solutions-based way, so that we're not scaring everybody out the door. People aren't leaving the zoo crying, but are ready to take action. A really great article actually came out today talking about Noki and how the research is in that it really is working. People are more engaged after participating in that. So there's a ton of not only data sets, but real-time data. So this is an example of real-time data of sea ice cover. So this will take the last year of data and put it up here, and so it's always changing. There's a weather one, so if there was a cool storm that came through, we could pop up the real-time data and watch the storm as it swirls across the planet. So there's some really cool real-time data that we can look at. I can bring it down here so we can all look better at the North Pole, for example. And of course, it's not just our planet. We do a lot of talking here about food webs and energy, and that a lot of life starts with energy from the sun. We wouldn't be here if we didn't have this beautiful ball of gas up above us, right? But how many kids have actually seen an actual image of the sun like this, right? So again, this is a satellite that took these pictures of the sun. And we know that people in general don't stargaze as much as we'd like them to. We're a little disconnected from the universe because, what's this? Yeah, so this is an image of that a satellite took at night. So this is what Earth looks like from space at nighttime. So, you know, we're not seeing as much of the Milky Way as we wish we could. You'd have to head down to the middle of the ocean somewhere, which I've done and it's amazing. So to be able to connect the South Coast back to the universe, to the Milky Way, to our home, right, is kind of cool. I haven't thought about the solar system in a zoo in a very long time, so I'm really excited about this aspect too. My favorite image on the sphere, it just blows my mind. This is an actual picture of Jupiter that a satellite took. Like, that's crazy to me. So, yeah. The largest planet, right? You knew that. I didn't until I played with this. So anyway, that's all I have, but I will be here. The sphere will be here. If anyone would like to see anything in particular, shout it out if you have questions. I didn't really talk about our programming with this, but of course, there's many different facets of how we will use the sphere here. It will be open to the public at certain times when there are volunteers and staff in here. I didn't mention this particular installation is on a chandelier lift, so it does go up into the ceiling. We currently have our 2 classroom spaces, so they are multi-use space. But whenever it's down and the room isn't being used, our goal is that the public will be able to experience this. Again, we want to bring science to our visitors. And of course, for school programs, our camp programs, our overnights have been loving these. Imagine spending the night in the zoo and you get to sleep with the moon, you know, in the room with you. It's pretty magical. So again, I will be here. There's still some cookies and popcorn. If anyone wants to see something, I might be able to find it. Or you can come up and do it yourself. But thank you so much for being here tonight.